Hey everyone, welcome to our deep dive. We're taking a look at Kelvin Kwan's Futureproof Your Work. If you're here, I bet you're interested in building a real online community, not just like chasing those follower counts, right?
Hmm.
And this book, get this, it uses this super interesting analogy. It compares building a lasting online presence to, well, founding new towns, throughout history.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating analogy.
Right.
Like, if you think about it, all those historical migrations, they were usually driven by people, wanting better opportunities or better living conditions. And now, like the internet, it's kind of becoming that new frontier.
Totally. Juan calls it the digital migration. And it's happening right now. People are like flocking to online spaces to work remotely or start businesses or just connect with each other. It's almost like a modern day gold rush.
I see that.
But here's where it gets even more interesting. Kwan argues that just having like a ton of online followers, it's not enough. Just like those folks who rushed to new territories back in the day,
Yeah,
got to build something that lasts, something with like substance.
exactly. And that's where that whole digital town concept comes in, right?
Yeah.
Kwan's point is we should be focusing on like building those strong communities,
Uh-huh.
ones with solid foundations, places designed for real, genuine connection and an impact that lasts.
And that makes total sense, especially for someone like you who's, looking to build something that goes beyond just like surface level engagement.
Definitely.
So why are so many people drawn to this whole digital migration thing in the first place? What's the driving force there?
Well, Kwan points to like a growing distrust, in those traditional institutions and
I
systems.
can see that.
Like people are feeling disillusioned by, big corporations. They're looking for different ways to connect with each other, to be creative, even earn a living. They want more autonomy, more control. And the internet, it gives them that potential.
I totally get that.
Yeah.
Even I've felt that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Just a sense of frustration with those big centralized systems. It does feel like things are shifting and people are searching for something different, something more authentic.
Absolutely. And that's where the pioneers come in. Kwan highlights these individuals who are like stepping up to create positive change in this new digital landscape. They're not just like passively going along with it,
Right.
They're actively shaping the future.
Got it.
And it's about more than just, attracting a crowd. It's about building something meaningful.
Okay, so how is this pioneering different from like the whole traditional influencer model? What makes these digital towns so special?
I think the key difference is it's about community, not just like individual gain.
Hmm.
Think of it like this. Influencers, they might have huge followings, right? But they don't always create that sense of belonging or shared purpose. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like those historical figures who were maybe super popular in their time, but they didn't really leave a lasting legacy. They had followers, sure, but not a real community that continued to grow and evolve.
Exactly. Kwan's point is if you really want to future-proof your work online, you need to build a town, one that serves the needs of its members and has a purpose beyond just, getting attention.
So we're shifting the focus from like gathering followers to building a thriving digital town. Okay, I like that. But how do we actually do that? What are the building blocks of a successful online community? What do we need to consider?
Well, that's where town architecture comes into play.
Town architecture.
Yeah. It's more than just having a pretty website or social media presence. It's about the underlying structure, the systems you put in place to encourage those real connections and meaningful interactions.
So it's like designing a physical town, right? Like you have to think about things like accessibility and infrastructure
Yeah.
and how people are going to move through the space and interact with each other.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Think about those well-designed cities like Copenhagen or Amsterdam. They prioritize things like walkability and green spaces and community hubs. Those are all elements that encourage interaction and a sense of belonging.
I see what you mean. It's about creating an environment where people actually want to spend time and connect with each other.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so how do we like translate those principles to the online world? What are some specific architectural elements, I guess, that can help an online community thrive? Like, are there any that come to mind for you?
Definitely. But before we get into the specifics, have you noticed any examples of like really successful online communities that you think embody this digital town concept?
One that comes to mind is
There's this online forum. It's for this kind of niche hobby I'm into. It's not huge, but it's like the connections there are real, you know?
Yeah.
And people are so supportive. It's great.
Yeah, those genuine connections, that's what really matters. It's not just about how many interactions you have, but the quality of those interactions, right?
Absolutely.
So getting back to Kwan's book, what are some of those like essential architectural elements that can make or break an online community? Like what are the things that we really need to pay attention to?
Well, Kwan really emphasizes having those clear communication channels. Think of them
Cool.
like the roads and pathways of your digital town, right?
Okay, yeah, I see that.
They need to be like well-defined and easy to navigate so people can find the information they need and connect with others who share their interests.
Makes sense. If people are like constantly getting lost trying to find their way around, they're going to get frustrated and leave.
Exactly. And then you got to have that town square, so to speak, that central gathering place where members can interact and have those discussions.
Right, like a forum or a virtual event space or something like that.
Yeah, exactly. It could be any of those things. It's just that place where the community comes together to share ideas, ask questions, and build relationships.
And just like a real-life town square, it needs to be welcoming and inviting, right?
Mm.
A place where people feel comfortable, just hanging out and striking up conversations.
Mm.
Kwan talks about that, about
Yeah.
fostering those authentic connections.
Right.
And I think that starts with creating spaces where people feel safe to be themselves.
Definitely. And another key element is the content. Think of that as the buildings in your digital town.
Okay, yeah, the content.
They need to be well constructed and offer something of value to the community. It could be informative articles, engaging videos, thought-provoking discussions, whatever. But it needs to be relevant to the community's interests and needs.
It's about providing substance, not just like empty noise, right? Content that educates or entertains or inspires, something that keeps people coming back for more.
Precisely. And then you can't forget about moderation. That's kind of like the town guard,
It's a town guard.
Yeah, someone who keeps things running smoothly. Make sure that the community stays a safe and welcoming space for everyone.
That's so important, especially as a community grows, right?
Right.
You got to have those systems in place to prevent spam, harassment, or any of those negative behaviors that can just ruin a positive online environment. It's like
Yeah.
having those rules and guidelines in place to like maintain order and civility within the town.
Exactly. And speaking of growth, another crucial aspect of town architecture is scalability. Your digital town needs to be able to grow and adapt as your community expands. This means having the right technical infrastructure in place and being willing to evolve and adjust your approach as needed.
Like planning for future development, making sure the town can handle all those new residents and businesses without getting too crowded or chaotic. So we've got those clear communication channels, that central gathering place, the valuable content, moderation, and scalability. Those are all those essential elements of a thriving digital town.
Hmm.
But how do we know if we're like on the right track? Are there any specific metrics or indicators that we should be paying attention to?
That's a great question, and Kwan actually talks about this in his book. He dedicates a whole section to measuring the success of your digital town. And he really emphasizes that it's not just about those vanity metrics like follower counts or website traffic.
Well, it's not just about how many people are like passing through town,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. It's about measuring the quality of the interactions, the level of engagement, the overall health and vibrancy of the community.
So we should be looking at how many people are setting down roots and becoming active members of the community.
Exactly. Are people forming meaningful connections? Are they participating in discussions and contributing their own ideas? Are they finding value in the content and resources you're providing? Those are the types of metrics that really matter.
I like that. And that kind of leads into another important aspect of Kwan's book, that concept of synergy.
Synergy.
Yeah. He argues that successful digital towns don't just like aggregate individuals. They create this collective force that's greater than the sum of its parts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a powerful idea. It's about harnessing the collective energy, knowledge, and skills of the community to achieve something really remarkable.
He gives that example of open source software projects like Linux.
Yeah.
Where thousands of developers from all over the world are collaborating to build this incredible thing. It's a testament to the power of collective action and shared purpose.
I see that.
But how do we create that kind of synergy within our own online communities? How do we get everyone working together towards a common goal?
Well, it starts with aligning the goals and values of the community. Everyone needs to be on the same page, working towards that shared vision, and that takes clear communication, strong leadership, and a genuine commitment to collaboration.
So it's about fostering a sense of shared ownership and responsibility,
Mhm.
right? Making sure everyone feels like they're a part of the community's success.
Absolutely. And it's also about creating opportunities for members to collaborate and contribute their unique talents and perspectives. This could be working together on projects, sharing knowledge and resources, or even just supporting and encouraging each other.
So we've explored those key elements of building a thriving digital town, from having that solid town architecture to fostering those authentic connections and creating synergy within the community.
Hmm.
But but let's be real, not every town thrives, right?
Hmm.
What are some of the potential challenges or pitfalls that we need to be aware of? What could trip us up along the way?
That's a crucial question, and Kwan actually addresses that in his book. He talks about the potential downsides of, venturing out on your own to build a digital town. And one risk he highlights is that fragmentation of influence across multiple platforms.
Oh yeah, I've definitely felt that. It's like that feeling of needing to be everywhere at once,
Yeah.
like you got to maintain a presence on your own website or platform, but then you're also juggling all those different social media channels. It can be overwhelming.
Absolutely. And it can also dilute your efforts and make it harder to build that truly cohesive community. It's like trying to run a town with like multiple town squares all scattered across different locations.
So how do we deal with that? Is it even possible to create a strong community while still maintaining a presence on like all those different platforms?
It's definitely a balancing act, and there's no one size fits all solution. But Kwan suggests focusing on building your core community on a platform that you control, whether it's your own website or a dedicated community platform. Then you can use social media and other channels strategically to like drive traffic and awareness back to your central hub.
Right. So it's like having a main street in your town where everyone knows to gather, but then also having those smaller outposts or satellite locations to reach people who might not find you otherwise.
Exactly. And another potential challenge Kwan talks about is dependence on external platform policies.
Hmm.
Even if you have your own website or community platform, you might still rely on, third-party services like payment processors or social media integrations.
Right, right.
And those companies can change their policies whenever they want, and that can have a huge impact on your digital town.
It's like having your town's electricity or water supply controlled by someone else.
Yeah.
You're kind of at their mercy, and that can create a lot of vulnerability.
Exactly. And it really highlights how important it is to carefully consider the platforms and tools you use to build your digital town.
Yeah.
Look for options that offer you flexibility and control and that have a good track record of stability.
So we've talked about the risks of fragmentation and dependence on those external platforms. Are there any other potential pitfalls that we should be aware of? Any other things that could, like, derail our efforts to build a thriving digital town?
Well, Kwan also talks about the challenge of building a lasting legacy.
A lasting legacy.
Yeah, it's one thing to create a thriving online community in the short term, but how do you make sure it lasts? How do you build something that outlasts like all the trends and the algorithm changes and even your own involvement?
Yeah, that's a question I think about a lot. It's like building a town that's designed to stand the test of time, even as the world around it is constantly changing.
Exactly. And that takes careful planning and a deep understanding of your community's needs. And you got to be willing to adapt and evolve over time. Kwan suggests focusing on, building a strong foundation and fostering that sense of ownership within the community and constantly looking for ways to add value and stay relevant.
It's about creating something that's bigger than just one person or one moment in time, right?
Yeah.
Building a legacy that's going to continue to inspire and connect people for years to come.
Precisely. And that actually brings us to another important part of Kwan's book. He outlines a 90-day roadmap to help those aspiring pioneers launch and grow their own digital towns.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wanted to hear more about that. So let's dive into that roadmap. What are the key phases involved in actually bringing a digital town to life?
Well, Kwan's roadmap starts with a step that a lot of people actually overlook: strategic consulting.
Strategic consulting.
Yeah, it's all about taking the time to define your vision, your goals, and your target audience.
So it's like creating a blueprint for your town, right?
Yeah.
Before you start like laying the bricks and mortar, you got to have a clear vision of what you're building and who it's for.
Exactly. And this phase involves asking yourself some tough questions like, What problem are you solving for your community? What unique value are you offering? What are your long-term goals? Answering those questions honestly will lay a solid foundation for everything that comes after.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So once we have that blueprint in place, what's next in Kwan's roadmap?
The next phase is all about customization and setup. This is where you choose the right platforms and tools to bring your digital town to life. Will you build your own website? Use a dedicated community platform? Leverage existing social media channels?
So it's like choosing the materials and construction methods for your town, picking the best options based on your budget, your vision, and the needs of your community.
Exactly. And this phase also involves designing the look and feel of your town. How will you create a welcoming and engaging environment that reflects your brand and your values?
It's like creating that sense of place, right? A
Yeah.
digital space that feels distinct and memorable.
Precisely. And once you have your platform and your design, then it's time for tactical implementation. This is where things get real. It's setting up your chosen platform, creating content, and basically putting all the pieces in place to launch your digital town.
So this is like the actual construction phase, right?
Yeah.
Bringing the vision to life, brick by digital brick.
Exactly. This phase takes attention to detail, technical expertise, and a lot of hard work, but it's also super rewarding to see your digital town start to take shape.
And then there's the grand opening, the community launch. What does Quan recommend for getting those first members on board and building that initial momentum?
This is a really critical phase, and Kwan emphasizes how important it is to create a buzz and generate excitement in the lead up to the launch. This could be things like running contests, offering early access to exclusive content, or partnering with other communities or influencers to spread the word.
It's like throwing a big party to celebrate the opening of your town. Invite everyone to come and see what you've created.
Exactly. But once you've launched your community, the work's not over. The final phase of Kwan's roadmap is ongoing management. You got to nurture your community, adapt to changes, and always look for ways to improve and evolve.
So it's like being the mayor of your digital town, right? You're responsible for making sure it continues to be successful and stays healthy.
Absolutely. And this phase involves listening to your community, analyzing data, experimenting with new approaches, and never getting complacent. It's about creating a culture of continuous improvement, always striving to make your digital town the best it can be.
Okay, so Quan's 90-day roadmap seems like a really solid framework for anyone looking to launch and grow an online community. But he also says that it's not like a strictly linear process. It's more of a cycle, right?
Exactly. You'll constantly be iterating, adapting, and refining your approach as you learn what works best for your community.
So we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive, from the changing landscape of online communities and that importance of building those digital towns to the key elements of town architecture and Quan's 90-day roadmap for getting started. But there's one more thing from Quan's books that I want to touch on before we wrap things up. He talks about the power of digital towns to promote what he calls human flourishing.
Yes. That's such a beautiful concept. It goes beyond just creating a successful online community. It's about building a space that actually contributes to the well-being of its members, a place where people can connect, learn, grow, and thrive.
It's about creating a community that has a positive impact on the world, both online and offline. And that leads to our final question for you today. How can you design your community to not just be successful, but to really contribute to the well-being of its members? What does human flourishing look like in your digital town?
That's a really powerful question, and it's definitely something that I'll be thinking about as I continue to build my own online community.
And it's a question that I hope all of our listeners will take with them as they start building their own digital towns.
Yeah, it's really cool to think about building something online that's more than just surface level, something that can actually make people's lives better. That's what I really liked about Kwan's book, Futureproof Your Work. Totally. It's a good reminder, I think. It's so easy to get caught up in the numbers and algorithms and stuff, Sometimes you lose sight of the human side of things.
For sure. So let's dig a little deeper into this whole human flourishing thing.
Yeah.
What are some ways that online communities can actually contribute to people's well-being? How can we do that in a real, tangible way?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is just providing that sense of belonging, that feeling of connection.
Yeah.
Which is something a lot of people are looking for these days, especially with how isolated the world can feel sometimes.
Right. It's like creating a virtual town square or something, where people can gather and just hang out with others who get them.
Exactly. And even beyond those casual interactions, I think online communities can foster those deeper connections too. Like they
Yeah.
can be those safe spaces where people feel like they can, share their struggles or ask for help or just offer support to each other.
Yeah, it's like having a built-in support system, right? Like a network
Yeah,
of people who really understand what you're going through. That can be so helpful, especially when things get tough.
for sure. And then on top of all that, online communities can also be amazing for learning and personal growth.
Quan talks about that a lot in the book, right? Like he sees digital towns as these hubs for sharing knowledge and developing new skills.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, think about it. In any online community, you've got this whole mix of people, right? All with their own unique experiences and talents and perspectives. The potential for learning and collaborating is huge.
It's like having access to this giant library of knowledge and expertise, but it's all within a supportive and fun community.
Right. And that learning can happen in so many ways. Like it could be informal discussions or peer mentoring or even those more structured online courses. The possibilities are kind of endless.
And I love how Quan emphasizes that this learning should be empowering. It's not just about like passively taking in information. It's about giving people the tools they need to create things, contribute, and make a real difference.
Yeah, it's about giving people agency,
Yeah.
helping them realize that they have something to offer, that their contributions matter.
And I think that's a huge part of human flourishing, right? That feeling of like being part of something bigger than yourself, knowing that you're making a real impact.
Absolutely. And online communities can be so good at cultivating that sense of purpose.
So we've talked about how online communities can help people connect, learn, and grow and find their purpose.
Hmm.
But but Quan also says that we shouldn't just assume that all online communities are automatically positive.
Right, right.
He talks about being careful about things like misinformation spreading or those echo chambers forming.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just like any town, a digital town can have its problems. It's really up to the community leaders and the members to be aware of those potential issues and actively work to address them.
So it's about fostering a culture of like critical thinking, right? Encouraging healthy debate and being willing to challenge those harmful ideas.
Totally. And it's also about being aware of like the algorithms and the design choices that can shape the online experience.
Hmm.
We got to be mindful of how those things can influence what we see, who we connect with, and even how we interact with each other.
It's like being aware of the town planning decisions
Mm.
that can either bring people together or kind of create division and isolation.
Exactly. And just like in a real town, it's important to have systems in place to handle conflict, to promote inclusivity, and to make sure that everyone feels safe and respected.
So building a digital town that really fosters human flourishing
Yeah.
takes a lot of careful attention to both the opportunities and the challenges, right?
Mm.
It's a constant balancing act.
It is, but it's so worth it because when it's done right, online communities can be truly amazing spaces, places where people can connect, learn, grow, and make a positive impact on the world.
That's a great way to put it. And on that note, if you're feeling inspired to start building your own digital town, or if you're already on that journey, remember Kwan's advice. Focus on building a community that not only thrives, but also truly contributes to the well-being of its members. Make it a place where people feel connected, supported, and empowered to make a difference. And remember, building a digital town is a journey. There's going to be bumps along the way. But if you stay focused on your vision, adapt to changes, and always put your community first, you can create something truly special. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We have a ton of resources on our website, so make sure to check those out if you want to learn more. Happy town building, everyone.